until 1941, the team's last summer. December 7th, 1941, began as an ordinary sunny Sunday.
Upon the United States territories and forces, and upon British territories and forces in the Pacific. Out of a blue sky on a quiet Sunday afternoon, we in Canada heard that Hitler's Axis partner in the Orient had joined Germany in her effort at world domination. When 5 days later, Canadian forces landed at Hong Kong, I made the statement that defense against
But that was the day Japan launched attacks on targets right across the Pacific, including Americans at Pearl Harbor and Canadians defending Hong Kong. By the end of the day, Canada was at war with Japan. And suddenly, Japanese people, all Japanese people, were the enemy.
We were treated as a mass, as a group. It was called a mass evacuation. I called it a mass expulsion from the, British Columbia coast.
all Japanese nationals will, in principle, be treated in the same way as nationals of Germany.
And then, whether we were immigrants who had then got citizenship or naturalized, or Canadian-born, we were all classified as enemy aliens.
They are part of the defense of every country which still enjoyed freedom.
See, they told us, if us guys go quietly, they won't touch your family or nothing. That's why we went quietly. Yeah, we didn't want to go, but that's the way it have to be.
Of Canadian residents of Japanese origin. Those who are considered dangerous are being interned at once.
And it was so sudden. And then the evacuation order came so swiftly. And I guess you know the story, that people were all herded into the exhibition grounds. And when they were moved in there, the stench of the animal and the livestock that were there previously was still there. All the women in one building, men in other. So, those are memories I will never forget.
All other Japanese nationals and Japanese naturalized since 1922.
Asahi bat boy, Nabi Hayashi, came home to find his father gone. It was 2 days before he found out his father had been pulled from his job and detained at the Hastings Park exhibition grounds.
He was a veteran of the First World War, and he asked the government, says, I fought for your country, and you're going to treat us like this? I told my dad, your car is gone. He just bought it when he had 25 miles on there, and he didn't believe it that it was gone, and also, everything else after that, see.
Persons in Canada of Japanese origin have been registered and fingerprinted. The competent authorities are satisfied.
Women and children were transported to ghost towns and hastily erected detention camps deep in the interior of British Columbia. The men were sent to work camps.
Some were only given 24 hours to leave their homes, and they could barely carry 2 suitcases. But within those meager suitcases were the Asahi photos, scrapbooks, and they took it with them to the camps, so you know how much the Asahis meant to them. And
New Denver, British Columbia, a valley in the Kootenay Mountains.
We lived in the tent the first year. That year was 1942, was one of the coldest years. The whole Slocan Lake froze up, and we had over 80 inches of snow that winter. And we had no water or no electricity. And that first winter was terrible. We call it the shack. You know, it wasn't a house at all. Your pail of water froze up by the sink there overnight. And your window used to have 4 inches of ice. So when you woke up next morning, that's how it was.
As for the unstoppable Asahis, along with the community, the team simply disappeared.
It was terrible. Terrible. We knew at that time that we would never be able to play as an Asahi team because we were dispersed to so many different ghost camps. Everybody was dispersed. Some of us went to like Lemon Creek, some went to Caswell, some went to Slocan, some to Tashme. I think actually I cried when the team had to break up. You know, when we knew that in 1942 we would never be able to play together again. So that was a sad part. Yeah.
To me, you know, my prime time was taken away playing ball by the war. So I only play Asahi for 3 years. So this one part that's I regret very much. You know, I couldn't play anymore.
Kei Kamanishi was the son of a wealthy man. His father had owned a big lumber company. Families that had enough money could be relocated to a supervised town in British Columbia. Kei's family decided to try Lillooet. They thought they might be welcome there. They were wrong. Lillooet was segregated.
We could go just before that bridge. This side of the bridge. That's the end of our, you know, freedoms. Not across the bridge. We have to carry the water from the Fraser River, and we used to look the town site, and I hope that one day, if freedom comes, we could go across the river and see the other people there, and I hope that that day will come soon.
I had to register them, and they had the roadblocks, and there used to be a guard there, 2 guards, for 24 hours a day, and they weren't allowed beyond those limits without a permit. It took some time, often as much as a month, to locate their relatives and get the family together again. So nobody was doing them any favors.
After a year of internment, it became clear that this was not a temporary measure. On January 23, 1943, Ottawa passed an order in council under the War Measures Act. All confiscated Japanese property was to be sold.
One individual, he'd just bought a new boat for $50,000 a month before they evacuated him. And I think he gave him $100 for it.
By now, every aspect of their lives was controlled. At the Lemon Creek camp, the man who enforced the rules was Commissioner James Burns.
Jimmy Burns ran the farm that the place was built on, and he was pretty abrupt. And they were the enemy. Make no mistake about it. They're the enemy.
But there was one thing that could not be sold, confiscated, or taken away. And little by little, it began to reappear in the camps.
There were a lot of ex-Asahi players in the camps. For in our case, we had my brother Kaz and a couple others. And we all said, well, let's get together.
In the Kazlo camp, Nagi Nishihara met up with former Asahi teammate Ken Kutsukake.
So I said to Ken, let's form the baseball team. So we did.
Everybody that wanted to play had a place on the team. So some were bad players, some were good players, but it didn't matter.
Everybody's got a glove of a ball, you know, just to bring it out and you just throw it around. And then go to the field there and bat it around, you know.
We took such great pleasure out of playing ball again. I had a feeling, let's show them, you know. I think that's what it was too. Let's show them that they can't keep us down. They can't keep us down forever.
I went there in mid-August, okay. And I got there, and there were two Japanese-Canadian teams. And the most wonderful thing about it is that the two captains of the teams were two Asahi. Nagi Nishihara, the pitcher, and Ken Kutsukake, who was the catcher. They were battery mates. And so I ended up on Nagi's team. It was really quite remarkable.
I remember in the evening, we knew there was a baseball game going. So we would all my friends and I, we would go down and we'd all sit on the railway tracks and cheer the teams on. Didn't matter about the quality of the game. It was baseball.
All their feelings went towards watching the ball games. I think it helped to lift up the morale and the spirits of the people in the camps.
Even Jack Duggan remembers the feeling. Despite strict orders not to mingle with the enemy, the Mountie couldn't resist the lure of the Asahis.
Oh, yeah, they were good. I played with them. I was nowhere near their caliber, but I could hit farther than they ever dreamed of hitting, except for Kazuga. Kaz used to always try and pitch to me just for the buggery. And then laugh if I'd strike out, and I'd laugh if he struck me out, one thing or another.
In Lillooet, Kei Kamanishi put together a team from the boys in the camp. Soon, Kei noticed that the RCMP guards would linger to watch them play.
I asked him about this constable. What do you think? I told him that we